Thank you, Mohammed. Can everybody hear me and can you see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, we can hear you, and yes, we can see you.
You can? Fantastic. Okay, let's get into presentation mode. Okay, welcome to day 3. If you made it back here today, I'll take it to mean that you're finding value in the class. So thank you for joining today. It's always exciting for me to come share my experience and like I like to put it, to walk the BA journey with you. Yesterday, we started talking about creating a business case. We talked about why we would even bother creating one. So just to do a quick recap, right? The reason your company might require that a business case be created is to see the value to be derived from the investment. Most companies are not into the business of software implementation. Your company may be a healthcare provider, or your company may be an online store, or your company may be a school, right? They are using technology to enhance the work that they do. They're not in the business of technology. So whenever they want to invest money into technology, right, the way they think about it and the way you think about it are completely different. To them, technology is used to support what they do. Technology is not what they do. So they really, really need justification for that investment, right? If your employer was a university and they were creating a new master's program, they are in the business of education. Even with that one, they probably still need to create a business case. But then imagine where they're investing this $1 million into something that is not their core business, right? So they need to see the justification. If we choose not to implement, okay, I need to stop moving my computer around. Sorry about that. If they choose to not invest the 1 million, what are they going to lose, right? Maybe if what they stand to lose isn't too much, well, they may decide that, you know what, we're not going to do the investment. So basically, that's what we're saying here. They're going to bring together a team of people who would put pen to paper, do a lot of research, and then come up with a justification to say, you know what, $1 million is a lot of money, no doubt about it. But if you invest it to build a solution that will support the business that you're doing today, you will be able to gain 25% more market share. There is a current segment of the society that you're not reaching today just based on the way you do business, right? But if you implement this tool, if you go digital, if you do automation, whatever that solution is, right, then you will be speaking the language that that segment of the society is speaking, right? And they'll be more willing to bring their dollars to you. So this type of thinking is what goes into how you want to create a business case. Okay, so that was a recap. Okay, so let's continue talking about the steps for developing a business case. So here we have evaluate options, right? Of all the options that you have, maybe we've decided we need to implement a CRM tool. What are the options? Who are the leaders in the market? Who's our competition using? Okay, we quantify the benefit of each solution. Sometimes an option is do nothing. There's nothing called a do nothing option, meaning we've looked at all the options, and if we do nothing, it's okay, right? But that's not what we're focusing on here. So we look at all the options and we select a preferred option. By select the preferred option, I don't mean you and your PM will make that decision for the company. I mean that in your documentation, you will have a recommendation to say, after looking at all of this, this is the one that we think will do the best based on 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Everything has to be fact-based. Then we develop an implementation strategy. To help you put this in context, I will walk you through an actual business case today. It will be a scaled down version because you don't have all the time in the world. But at the minimum, it would give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, so we develop an implementation strategy. Basically, what is the plan? If we were to get this 1 million today, what we will do first, what we will do second, what is basically the end-to-end of that project? What would it look like? Planning, implementation, post-implementation, training, organizational change management, all the different things that will go into a project implementation. Okay? And then we would also include how the business objective will be achieved. Okay, so for us to implement this tool, right? If you were to give us the 1 million, we'll hire that person, we'll get a project team together, and then every quarter, this is what we plan to have achieved. Basically, like a timeline. Okay, and then we'll talk about the risk that we think we will encounter and how we intend to address the risk. Okay. So we talked about recommending a preferred solution. What we're looking for ideally is to gain approval for upper management to read the businesses and say, okay, it makes sense actually, we're willing to invest this money. The other thing to think about is that depending on how big your company is, there can be 10 projects going on at the same time, or 10 different departments vying for the same 1 million. Now, your company already has an amount they can spend on project for the year. It's part of the planning they've done at the exec level. And if this year they've determined they're spending $2 million, and then they have maybe 5 different departments competing for $1 million each, meaning these 5 departments need a total of $5 million, but there's only $2 million to spend. Well, executive needs a way to decide who's going to get the money. And these are the documents they're going to look at. Okay, if we give it to Department 1, there is a dependency between Department 1 and Department 3. Even if we give the money to Department 3, whatever solution they implement cannot be fully utilized if Department 1 has not implemented its solution. Therefore, it makes sense to give the money first to Department 1 and then maybe next year give it to Department 3. I say that just so you know that you as a BA may be looking at your project, right, as, okay, this is what they had me for, this is what I'm looking at. But the powers that be, they're looking at something more than what you're looking at. And so when you're creating your document, you and your project manager putting the business case together, you need to think holistically. Don't work in a silo and try to figure everything out on your own. Of course, you're not going to make things up. Whatever you have in the business case has to be verifiable, right? But at least understand that there is competition. And if in your company is so small, there's no competition, it is what it is, right? But I just felt the need to mention that, okay? Always think about your audience when you're putting together any documentation. Now that you know what the other departments that may be competing for the money, you may need to put a little more extra into making a case for your documentation. And then going back to the example that I gave about dependency, let's say that in your investigation, you know that there is a dependency between your department and another department, that other department needs your solution for them to be able to implement their own solution or for them to be able to improve on their work. You want to include that in your business case because that's an example of something that would, sway is the word that comes to my mind now, but that's not the real word. But those are the things management needs to see so that they are able to make that informed decision on who to give the money to, basically. Okay? Your goal here is to get an approval. And an approval means that they're agreeing to allocate that money to the project. So when you're writing a business case, right, you want to have an introduction. What is this document about? Because your business case document can be 20 pages, can be 30, right? Executive management, they don't like to read 20 pages. And there is no guarantee that they're going to flip through every page to read all 20. Okay? So you want to have an introduction, set the scene, make them interested by just reading the first page. Not that they read the first page and they're like, oh no, I have to read this later. I can't do this right now. Okay, what is the document about? Why did you prepare the document? Then there's an executive summary, which basically summarizes the intent of the document. Then give us the background information. Don't jump into, oh, we're going to implement the solution and it's going to be so beautiful. What is the problem you're trying to fix? Or what is the opportunity you're trying to take advantage of? Okay, then you want to talk about the options you considered and then the pros and cons of each option. Then you make a recommendation to this is what we should do. And this recommendation needs to be a clear statement, not the type of statement that is so bogus and they need to read it 10 times before they understand it. Again, think about your target audience, right? It's probably a VP reading this document. They have maybe 5 minutes to read your document. It needs to be clear, straight to the point. This is not the point where you want to explain so many different things. If there is additional explanation or information, you have maybe put it in the appendix. But in the actual body of the document, it needs to be easy to read. Think about it this way. When that VP is reading your document, they have 10 other documents and they have 1 hour to read it. Don't make them spend that entire 1 hour on your document. They're going to be annoyed. And by they're going to be annoyed, I actually mean they're going to be annoyed. When you see the responses to some of the emails that people get sometimes, you can tell that the person on the other end, annoyed is not the word, they're irritated. They're like, you're wasting my time. I have so much that I need to do. Okay, so that's the idea there. Then we have the cost benefit analysis, which is basically, this is what it's going to cost and this is the benefits. Okay. Then we have the impact analysis, which is basically what is the impact this is going to have. If we implement the solution, what impact will it have? If we don't implement the solution, what impact will it have? Okay. Then we do a risk analysis, right? There is always risk involved. And how would you know the risk? You need to do research. You need to talk to people. Some of this risk is going to be unique to your company. Maybe a risk might be while you're talking to maybe different managers of departments that will be impacted by the solution. They say, oh, every time we've implemented a new tool, 30% of our workforce resigns because they just don't want the change. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I gave the example of when I worked in the insurance company and we were automating claim submission. There are people who have been working with the company for 40 years. Someone has been doing something a certain way for 40 years and now you want to change it. They are going to retire. They don't want the change. The company was so kind enough that he actually offered some people retirement and said, you know what, we will continue to pay you something along those lines, but it's okay, just retire. Because this change was so much that it would have been hard for some people to take. I've worked in another organization where I was in a meeting, right, there were like directors and all of that. And somebody said, you know what, can you just wait till I retire before you do the change? And the person said it in front of their boss. So just so you know that when you're implementing a tool, it's a change, right? People may not be happy. Some of them will tell you kindly that they're unhappy, or some of them will be plainly rude to you, even though you're not the one who made the decision to implement the tool, right? But let's bring that back to risk, right? There's that type of risk, okay? How will you know as a BA? By asking questions. Okay, and then in your business case, you want to have your conclusions and recommendations, and you can have your supporting appendices. Okay, there's no hard and fast rule. Like everything I just mentioned, they're common to what you'd find in a business case, but the one you and your PM and your team are putting together may look slightly different. But there's some critical things that need to be in there. There cannot be a business case document without a cost benefit analysis. I mean, the cost benefit is the idea behind the business case, right? Right? We're going to spend X and we're going to make Y. So you almost can't put together these documents without doing your cost benefit or recommendation or risk analysis, right? Another example of a risk would be that of the 3 tools you're considering, one of them, which seems to be maybe the really good one from a functionality standpoint, their support may be terrible. The support that they provide to their customers after implementation is terrible based on reviews, right? That is a risk. That way, when management is trying to decide on should we go with tool A or tool B or tool C, you've given them that information. Management should not have to go look for this information themselves. It is part of your job as a BA and the PM's job and your entire team's job to provide all of that information to them so that when they read it, they're able to just make a decision. They may have like follow-up questions, some back and forth, right? And then they're able to make the decision. So in summary, when you're putting together a business case, start with a big bang. You know, that statement that somebody reads it and they're like, okay, I'm going to drop everything else and I want to really focus on this document. Okay, so something like this presentation will explain how our organization can save 12 million a year from its operating expense. If you were the VP of the company and you read this, would you not be interested? There is no exec who doesn't want to save money. So, of course, don't make it up, right? Don't make something up because you want to captivate them. Because this 12 million, if you mention this, then in the body of your documents, you need to put a breakdown of how they're actually going to save 12 million. So the point here being, make it captivating, like present it in a way that anybody who stumbles on that document would want to read every single page after the first page. And then you present the issues, which could be the problem or the opportunity, and then you present the solution. Lastly, you end on a high. You summarize the issues and you clearly restate the decision you are asking them to, you're inviting them to make. So you're not making the decision for them, but you're writing the document in a way because you now know so much. Imagine all the research you'd have had to do to put this document together. You know enough to be able to make a decision, but you don't have the power to make that decision. So you're going to give them that summary that is clearly inviting them to make a certain decision without you making the decision for them. Okay. So let's talk a bit more about cost benefit analysis, right? Because we know that this is like it's the main gist of the business case, right? With the cost benefit analysis, we're basically putting the cost and the reward side by side. Like it's going to cost us 1 million, but it's going to increase our revenue by 3 million annually for the next 5 years. I think that was the example I gave the other time. You see, when you're writing a business case, right, the project sponsor should be the one in charge. So even though the project sponsor is not the one doing the work, it would be the PM and you and maybe some stakeholders, right? It's almost like you're doing it on behalf of the project sponsor. So in case you are wondering, who is the project sponsor? The project sponsor is the one who goes in front of the rest of the executive team. Usually the project sponsor is part of the executive, usually. And that is the one person that goes in front of all of the other executives and say, if you give me $1 million, I'll make magic happen. Okay? So they're the ones sticking their neck out for this, even though you and the PM are the ones doing the work. So anything going into the business case should be vetted by the project sponsor. Your business case should not be prepared and then it goes straight to the executive management. The project sponsor should at least see what is in there. Because technically, the project sponsor is the one asking for the money. The project sponsor is the one sponsoring the project. Except the money is not coming from his pocket, his or her pocket. The money is coming from the company. But remember that a company doesn't have infinite amount of money. There is a certain amount of money they have. And all the projects need to compete for the money. So there may be 4 different project sponsors going to executive management to ask for money. You and your PM should really support your own project sponsor so they get the money for the project. Okay? The business users or actors should have a say in identifying and quantifying potential benefits. This is a very important point because in case you're wondering, how will I know the benefit? Well, technically, you're not supposed to know the benefit by yourself. You don't own the company. You don't know the business. They hired you 3 months ago. So how would you know? The way you're going to know is by talking to the business, right? Again, I just moved my laptop. Sorry, 1 second. When my screen goes blank, do you see it? Do you see a blank screen? Can anybody let me know?
We can see your screen.
No,
Oh, you can? So it's just on my end. When my hand touches, I think it's the cord. Okay, good. That's good then. Okay. Yeah, so I was talking about the business users, right? They are the ones who know the business. Like when I was in the insurance company and they realized that the paper claims was such a headache. Okay, so they told me that, okay, I understand it's a headache. How is it a headache? Then they began telling me, oh, when somebody sends in a claim, it needs to go through 4 different departments before we pay it. It may get missing at department 3. There's no way I would have known that if I hadn't asked them. So if it gets lost, what happens? Then they tell me what happens. And then I continue asking more questions. And at the end of the day, I will drill down to the cost benefit. To the cost, right? Where there is a cost, you will drill down to it. Where there is no cost, something like, oh, employee morale is low. How do you want to put a cost to employee morale? But you will mention that employee morale is low. You do not have to attach a cost to it. So I deviate a bit there. Coming back to the point here, right, is the end users of the system, the ones who are experiencing pain points in the system, or the ones who know about the opportunity that could be leveraged, right? Those are the ones you talk to and they will give you all of this information. And with that information, you will then be able to do the cost and the benefit. Okay. Now, in your cost benefit analysis, always distinguish between what is a feature and a benefit. So I have some examples here. With this new application, we'll have a faster response time. That is a feature. Whether it will be beneficial to one business or another, it is a feature. It is not a benefit. The benefit, though, is that if you look at B, the feature is that there will be a faster response time. The benefit is that if we have a faster response time, we can get more work done per day. So we may need fewer employees doing this particular task. Maybe we can reduce the workforce to 50% in that department and move the other 50% to another department. Or we can keep all employees in that department, but we freed up 50% of their time that can be used for more value-add services. So do you see the logic here? You'd mentioned the benefit, faster response time, this and that, whatever it is, right? But what will really sway the executives is the benefit, not the feature. Okay? So another benefit is because now it will load faster, we can take more orders in a day. If we're into the business of cooking food, right, selling food, and we're able to implement a tool that will reduce our cooking time by 50%, that means we can double our orders by 2. So if today we're able to take 100 orders, because that's how long it takes, right? But now we're implementing a solution where we're going to be able to take 100 orders in half the time. We freed up 50% of our time, meaning we can take 100 more orders. I know that may take a minute to sink in, but you do have access to this PowerPoint documentation. So just try to go over it again if it is not too clear. And I'm sure you'd be able to come up with examples of your own. Okay? All right. So we talked about impact analysis earlier, right? This is, you're basically identifying and assessing any non-cost impact of the change, such as new ways of working. So when we went from paper claims to automating the claims, right? In the current state, when a customer mails in their claims, it will go to the printing department. The printing department will scan it, and then the scanned copy will be stored on SharePoint. But the paper copy is still manually taken to the 3rd floor for the claims department to process, even though there's a scanned copy on SharePoint. When we automated it, the printing department still scanned it, and the copy, the image of that document is on SharePoint, but the robotics application will pick it up from SharePoint. They didn't have to manually take the paper claims to the 3rd floor. Now, the question is, what will the claims department be doing with their time? Because these claims they used to use their whole 8 hours to process, now we've given it to bots, right? And the claim that will take a human being 20 minutes to key into the system, because after they took that paper to the 3rd floor, they then manually keyed it into the line of business application. So let's just say they keyed it into their own version of Salesforce, right? They were using a different application. But now that we've automated it, once it was scanned, humans didn't have to touch it anymore. Meaning that we needed to change the way the claims department was working because we're not going to fire all of them, right? Okay. So if no costs are involved or if the cost cannot be assessed with any accuracy, decision makers need to be made aware. Okay? It will be logical to them to even they know that not everything. I'm just gonna, okay, I don't know why that popped up. Even don't know that not everything can be quantified, so, but just be transparent. That's what's most important here. Risk assessment, there is always risk involved. Okay? The strength of your business case will be in showing what the risks are and the countermeasures that will be applied should the risk materialize. The fact that there's a risk does not mean the risk will happen. Let's say there's a project where the project is very unique and they have only one developer. And even took them forever to hire that developer. For the lifetime of the project, there is a risk that that developer would leave. If the skill is so unique, every company is after them, right? Does it mean that that developer will leave? No. But is there a chance they might leave? Yes. If they leave, what is the countermeasure? Are you getting them to train somebody right now so that if they leave suddenly, that person can pick up the slack pending when you hire somebody else? Okay. So let's look more closely at risk. There are typically three stages to risk. One is we know what the risk is. Two is we evaluate the significance of the risk. What are the chances of the risk happening and how much impact is it going to have if it happens? And three is how do we plan on responding to the risk? Okay? So the first one we have avoid. Avoiding a risk basically focuses on reducing the probability of the risk happening, trying your best to reduce it to zero. Okay? To avoid the risk of building your own CRM and it not working properly because you're not in the business of building CRM. Blue Cross, if they choose to build a CRM today, chances are it won't be as good as Salesforce, right? Because Salesforce is in the business of building that. Blue Cross is in the business of insurance. So to avoid a risk like this, they will just go buy a CRM tool. By avoiding that, like, you know what? I do not want this problem. So I'm not even going to try to do it on my own. I'm just going to go to an authority in the field and engage them. The next one here is to mitigate it. Okay? So what does it mean to mitigate? Let's say that your company engages a vendor to do an implementation for them, right? You can build a clause into the contract to say that if you don't perform as you've agreed to in this contract, we're going to pull out of this contract. So even though we're giving you a contract for 1 million, the plan is we're going to disburse the funds 100,000 per time. For the first 100,000, you do the work that, maybe 10% of the project is what you do. If we discover that your 10% is subpar, we will cancel the contract. And we're not going to pay you the 900,000. Okay? An example of transferring a risk would be, so imagine like your car insurance, right? I don't know if there are any provinces in Canada or states in the US where you can drive without insurance, but let's imagine that was a possibility. If you do not insure your car and something happens to the car, then to fix the car, you're paying everything yourself. But if you buy insurance, auto insurance, and anything happens to your car, the insurance company pays for it. What have you done? You've identified that as long as you're driving a car, right, there is a chance something can go wrong. We know the risk exists. What have you done? You've transferred it. Should this risk ever happen, you will pay for it. I will not pay for it. And that's why you and I have agreed that every month I'm going to be paying you $200. Okay? The last one here is accept, where you said, you know what? We've looked at the probability and impact of this risk. It is not too bad. We can take it on. Okay? we'll take it on, either because we don't even have an option, right? So I told you about a company where I worked where the solution they provide is so unique. In the whole of Canada, they are the only ones who provide it, and it's government related, right? So there is no tool out there. So they decided to build it in-house. Of course, when you're building in-house, you are not in the business of building applications. However, you're having to build one because the application you need is not in the market anywhere. So you've accepted the risk. You don't have a choice anyway. What would you then do? Build the best team that you can to implement that solution. Okay? So we're not going to start lesson 3 just yet. Let's see how we're doing with time. Okay. What I plan on doing next is we'll take some questions if there are any, and then I want to walk you through a business case that I made up. I made it up, but it's as real as can be, right? And when you get on the job, you can expect what I'm going to walk you through today, but on a bigger scale, depending on the size of your project. Okay. So let's see, what do we have in here? Okay. There are no questions in the chat. If you have a question, I know that there are 2 questions that I needed to take yesterday. I think it was one from Bola and the other one, I need to
They have their
remember
hand up.
the name. Sorry? I think
They
it
have
was
their hand
Bola
up.
and Aminat.
2 people have their hand up.
Can you repeat that, please?
I said 2 people have their hands up already.
Yeah, 2 people. Yeah, but I wanted to thank you for that. I wanted to start with the people who had questions yesterday and we couldn't get to. But if they're not here, we'll just start with the questions from today. Bola, are you here?
Yes, I am, Abiola. Good
You
evening.
are? Okay. Good evening. Yeah. So,
Yes.
hi, what was I think you had 2 questions. I answered one and there was one left.
Yes, the one that was left was on the cost benefit analysis as regards cost for human resources. Like if we are to hire maybe 2 BA, 3 developers and all of that, and previously the organization had not employed such people, how do we go about retrieving such information from HR since it's confidential?
Okay, so it will be provided to you. They would either give it to the project sponsor who will share with the project team, but typically the project manager is able to get this information. HR understands the fact that you need that information and they would provide it. The most important thing is that it has, because it's confidential, right? You know, you can't just put it on SharePoint where everybody can see it, but they will provide it to you. They understand what you need it for, and they will provide that information to you. If you don't have it and you're the BA, ask the PM.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Aminat, is Aminat here? Okay, can they go ahead, please?
Good evening, Abiola. Thank you for the class. My question was, I actually had it when you were talking about the project sponsor, and that they are like the one that is the has overall control of the whole process. So I'm just kind of thinking in a business setting, can you have a BA and a PM on 2 different projects at the same time? And if that is the case, have you ever had a case where they have 2 different project sponsor for each of those, and how did they kind of manage that situation?
Okay, good question. Have I been in that situation? I don't think so. But if I were in that situation, it's pretty easy. At the end of the day, I'm not the project sponsor who is going to fight for the money. What is required of me as the BA is to give my project sponsor the information they need to be able to go lobby for the money. So I will give each project sponsor what they need. And it's then left to each of them to go get the money that they need. Do you understand what I mean? I'm still going to treat each project. If I had to contribute to a business case for each project, I will still treat them independently, right? And then once the business case is done or the business cases are done, the PM would give it to the project sponsor, whoever they need to submit it to, and then they will take it on from there. but you're still going to work on them independently. You will not bog yourself down with, oh, these two projects are actually competing, because you don't know that. Those two projects may actually not be competing for the same money. So you typically, as a BA, would not even worry yourself about it. Just do what you need to do on each document, contribute whatever you need to contribute to it, and then, leave it to, I call them the powers that be, to do what they need to do. Both of them may come back with money, or only one of them may come back with money, and they'll tell the other one, wait till next year. Okay?
Okay, thank
But
you.
usually, by the time they hire a PM and a BA to be working on a business case, they're almost guaranteed the money. It's just that, in big organizations like this, especially anything that has to do with government or big organizations, there's a lot of, everything has to be by the book and everything has to be transparent. If they're going to agree to invest $1 million, there needs to be paper trail. How did we get to this decision? And that's why we do all of, obviously, they still want to see the justification, right? But you begin to wonder, but you already had the PM, you're already paying us, and you're still trying to do justification. Do you understand what I mean? That's like putting the cart before the horse, right? But that's how it's done. Okay.
Thank you.
And that's why sometimes you see they'll hire a BA, right? Especially if it's not an employee role, like a contractor role, they'll hire a BA, and then 4 months into the project, they're like, we don't have money anymore. What do you mean you don't have money anymore? Kind of thing, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of that before. It happens. Because maybe something more important came up that money needs to go to. So I always recommend as a BA, do not concern yourself with all of that. Just do the work. If there's more, as a BA, you may be on multiple projects. It happens all the time, right? One may require a business case, another one may not even require one. But whatever the case is, at least now you know how to sort of carry yourself and how to carry yourself in each situation. Did that answer your question?
Oh, yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. Do we have any other questions? We're a bit quiet today. Now is the time to ask the questions before we start. I'll do the business case walkthrough and then we'll start another topic. Okay, if there are no questions, can you tell me how you're feeling about the class? Mobola, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Abiola. I see that the next topic you're going to, but I just want to before you get there, I just quickly want to ask it. I've been thinking, how is this? So from what you taught now, my understanding is that a business case is a justification for why a project should be embarked upon by an organization. How is that different from a project charter? Is it the same thing?
No, it's not the same thing. A project charter, even if you look at the names, right? So I think we have an idea what a business case is, right? The business case is really, in plain terms, this is why we should do the project. However, the project charter is what the project is about. Even if you were to include some of what you have in the business case in there, the purpose of your project charter is not to justify the project. Okay? A project charter will talk about the goals of the project. It will talk about the benefit of the project. If we do this project, this is what we're going to benefit, right? This is what this project would involve. This is how long it will take us to do the project. But it is not comparing, if we don't do this project, this is what we're going to lose. If we don't change this application we're using today, we most likely will lose 25% of our customers in the next 3 years. That will be in a business case, because a business case will show you what you stand to gain or what you stand to lose by not making the change. Whereas the project charter is really just information about the project. The project charter is used in project planning. It would outline the key items of the project, the key goals of the project, the key benefits of the project. Do you understand what I mean? So the schedule of the project, how long it would take, some of these things you would have in the business case as well. But the project charter is not what you go use to ask for money. That is not the goal.
Yeah. Okay, I get it now. Thank you.
Exactly. Okay, good. Any other questions or comments? Let's see what we have in the chat. Okay, this is all still Slack. Okay, no questions, no comments. We're all doing okay. All right. So let me pull up the document that I wanted to walk through today. I have a different PowerPoint up now. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
We can see, but it's not in presentation mode yet.
Yeah, I will put it in presentation mode in a second. Okay. Okay. So this business case document will be talking about the implementation of Salesforce at Tech IT. I'm making this presentation to the executive team. So I'm just telling you that I'm not presenting yet. I'm making the presentation to the executive team of a company called Tech IT, and I'm trying to get them to implement Salesforce, and I'll be telling them about the benefits of that implementation, basically what the company stands to benefit if they were to follow my recommendation in this document. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's meeting. As mentioned in the email invite today, I will be walking you through the business case for the implementation of Salesforce at our company. Okay. So there is an opportunity that our company can leverage if we do it today. And so in this presentation, I'll be explaining how Tech IT can save $2.1 million annually on its operating expenses and increase revenue by $1 million annually over the next 10 years. Okay. Today, a major issue we have at our company is customer turnover. There is a certain way we do business that some of our customers do not appreciate. As a result, we've identified a need to change the way we attract, retain, and manage our customers, partners, and potential customers. In simple terms, we would like to keep them happy, possibly make them happier, so that they'll keep their business with us. One of the main issues that we have today is that we have multiple systems managing different parts of our business. And these systems do not necessarily talk to each other the way that they should. In money terms, this is leading to a loss of about $1.4 million annually. In addition to that, we have a high customer turnover rate, which is costing us about $1.5 million annually. The change that we're asking for today, which is to implement Salesforce, will reduce the wastage that we're experiencing today, which is negatively impacting our bottom line. What is the solution that we need? We need a CRM tool that would help us increase our customer and partner acquisition rates, and that would improve our financial position by growing our client base. How do we plan to achieve this? By implementing this tool, we would enhance visibility into our opportunity conversion and sales cycle, which will consequently improve our company's customer retention rate. So let us compare where we are today to where we want to be in the future. In the current state, we have low visibility into the sales and service life cycle. Our data sources are not connected to one another, so there is no guarantee that whatever data we're looking at on a day-to-day is current. This means that we may be making decisions, in fact, critical decisions with outdated data. There is no visibility amongst our teams, meaning there is not sufficient collaboration to support the business that we do. Our messaging to our customers and our partners are not consistent, and the messages they receive depends on who they're talking to. We have a lot of manual entry today, which makes tracking a really difficult task. Lastly, our current application is with a high-risk vendor who does not provide sufficient support and may be going off market on very short notice. The current state that I've just described is not a current state we want to maintain for much longer if we want to avoid some of the potential consequences of the current issues. What do we want to see in the future state? We want improved visibility into the sales and service life cycle. We want to be able to make critical business decisions using real-time data. We want dashboards that are user-friendly and that our customers will actually enjoy logging onto. Not just our customers, we care about our employees as well. And we want to make their work as easy as can be. We want our messaging to our customers and partners to be consistent so that if they were to talk to 3 different people in our company in one day, we will be sharing the same information with them. We want to be able to make data-driven sales and service planning. We want to better harmonize our sales processes. And we want to do reprioritization. Today, a lot of our time is spent on administrative tasks. And while administrative task is important, we want to be able to convert some of that time into more value-add tasks. So what is our growth strategy? We're working towards the Tech IT 2024. What is Tech IT 2024? It's an era of higher productivity through automation, integrated sales processes to support and improve us. We want a modern and engaging platform to support our 5,000 customers, which are distributed globally. We want to have strategic sales planning to onboard 500 new customers before 2025. We want to increase our customer and partner retention and build lasting relationships. We want to be the best at what we do, okay? And we want to continually attract and retain our customers. We want to be agile. As our industry evolves, we want to be able to evolve as well. And we want to improve on our sales process to bring us a 10% growth annually over the next 10 years. So if you look at the top left portion of what I have on the screen, today we spend about 10% of our time and resources on planning, 40% on sales and service delivery, and 50% on administration. If you look at this diagram, it almost looks like we are in the administration business, but we're not. We are in the sales and service delivery business. So what do we want the future to look like? We want to increase the time that we spend on planning because we know planning is important. And then we want to increase the time that we spend, the time and resources that we spend on sales and service. We want to increase it from 40% to 60%. We want to reduce administration time to 10%. And then technology and automation will take 15% of our resources. So if you look to the right side of the screen, this means increasing our lead to account ratio from 10 to 1.5 to 10 to 3. We want to reduce our administrative costs. Currently, annually, we're spending about $350,000 on admin-related duties. Our application maintenance costs about $250,000 today, even though admin is not our core business. We want to potentially increase our revenue annually over the next 10 years by 10%. 10% to us right now means 1 million annually. We want to reduce the time it takes to execute a typical sales transaction. We want to improve and make consistent our customer and partner experience. We want to reduce our weekly email transaction by 30% through automation. And we want to reduce our customer turnover, which again is will cost us about 1.5 million in 2024 if we do not address it today. Okay, so this slide really just buttresses the points that I've made earlier on. We want increased operational efficiency. We want to facilitate the growth of our company. We want a reduction in customer acquisition rate, and we want improved customer visibility. By the way, I emailed this PowerPoint presentation to you about 2 days ago. If you haven't had a chance to read it, please know it is sitting in your email. Please, and feel free to refer to it. Okay. So what will this implementation look like? The first stage will start with initiation and planning. We'll do an initial assessment. We'll set our goals. We'll identify our stakeholders. We'll engage them. We'll identify who our change champions are. Okay, and we'll identify and document the risk. And then we'll start our implementation. So we'll do a current state analysis so that we can fully understand what is not working well in the current state or the opportunities that we could take advantage of as a company. We will then define the future state, which will give us a clear picture of what we're working towards. We will then identify the gaps between our current and future state. We will document the requirement by working closely with our business units. Then we will implement the solution. We will provide training on the new tool, and we'll make sure to manage the change properly. Post-implementation, we will verify that the solution is working as it should. And if there are any gaps in our implementation, we will address them, and we'll continue to monitor the metrics to validate that we're actually increasing our revenue by 1 million annually over the next 10 years. Okay. We understand the need for change management. No matter how great a change is, if people are not willing to receive it, the change itself will be futile. And so what are we going to do? We will seek to understand organizational context and readiness. How ready is our company to embrace the change that we're about to implement? Okay. We will then seek to understand the impact, levels of resistance, and develop a change strategy. Next, we will develop and implement our change plan, and then we will measure and course correct as required. What do we mean here? When we implement our change plan, if we find areas that need to be improved upon, we will course correct and make the required changes. The critical thing here is to understand the vision and the reason for the change and help everybody who will be impacted by this change to understand the vision and the reason. Okay? We will then develop a detailed understanding of the impact of the change and develop a change management strategy to address it. What does this mean? Like I mentioned earlier, we will identify the departments that will be impacted by this change. People whose ways of working will be impacted. People who would have to work differently starting from when we implement the tool. And we'll work alongside them to help them understand the change, what the change will mean to their day-to-day work, and help them see the benefits of the change. Okay? As part of our change management plan, we would have a sponsor roadmap, resistance management, because we know that there may be resistance, stakeholder engagement, which will detail how we plan to engage all the stakeholders who will be impacted. How are we going to do our communication? Would it be through email? Are we going to have meetings? And then the training plan. At what point will we start training? Who will get trained? Are we going to use the trainer approach where we're going to train the managers and have the managers train their team members? And then we'll continuously evaluate the impact of this change through the lifetime of the project and post-implementation. So again, we know that with every project, there is a risk. Okay, the risks we've identified here are: 1, user acceptance due to conventional ways of doing business. Okay, sometimes it's difficult for people to see the benefit of a change if all they can think about is the disruption the change will bring to their ways of working. 2, enterprise focus on cloud leverage is relatively new. Today, all of our solutions are on-prem. We do not have any solutions in the cloud. With this implementation, that will change. So that is a risk that we need to be aware of and to have a plan to address. Thirdly, change management competency is new to our organization. We haven't implemented a new tool in the last 10 years. We will not claim to be experts in change management. Being aware of this, we're going to put in extra resources and planning into ensuring that we have a proper change management plan. Thirdly, is that we have multiple technology platforms that are not sales related today and will need to be integrated with this new application. So from a technical standpoint, we need to understand what this will entail, and we need to have the right team that will be able to make it happen. These are some of the risks that we've identified and that we've developed risk responses to address. You would find the risk response strategy in the appendix of this document. Now let's talk about the actual Salesforce implementation. To move the organization to the next level, we're requesting $2.2 million for the implementation of Salesforce. Below is the breakdown. Application and license fees for all departments that are in scope of this implementation will be $500,000. The human resources for the project will be $1 million. Human resources from the business, so these are non-project resources, will be $300,000. And we have other costs, which is sitting at $400,000 today. Why Salesforce of all the CRM applications out there? Number one, it's a secure tool. It's highly customizable and can be expanded on to accommodate some of our unique business practices. It is user-friendly and it is robust. So in plain terms, we've researched our competition and we know that they're using this tool and it's working for them. It is also scalable, meaning that when we implement it today, we can expand the functionality to the benefit of our business in the future. It has a really good user interface, and the user experience has been really good based on some of the reviews that we've shared. And it has a proven track record. Companies have been using it for years, and they have really good things to say about the application. Okay, so other benefits of the CRM tool is it has a centralized customer information. It has centralized customer information. It has a really good account planning functionality, time management functionality, and team collaboration as well. And these factors or these functionalities are the things we're missing in the application that we use today, which is limiting us as a company from getting to the next level. So by implementing the CRM, the functionalities that we need to enable us to do the work that is required to get us to the next level will become achievable. Should we choose to implement Salesforce, this is what the journey would look like. We'll define the project goal, we'll set the metrics for success, we'll identify who our stakeholders are, we'll communicate the project goal to them. We will then elicit requirement. Basically, what do we need to be able to do with the tool to achieve our goal? We will document this requirement, we'll categorize them and verify them, okay? We'll manage the change that will come about as a result of implementing this tool, the solution. We will implement the requirement. We will validate it. So what does this mean? We want to make sure we're building the solution right. We will then test the solution. We'll present it to the business. We'll go live. We'll monitor the solution and we'll verify the results. What result are we talking about here? The potential benefit that I spoke about earlier in my presentation. We're claiming that we have an opportunity to make $1 million annually over the next 10 years. After go live, we will then begin to monitor year on year if we're actually hitting the 1 million that we've claimed in this document. And here is a graphic of the timeline. So March 2024, we'll begin to build our implementation team. Okay, between June 2024 and August 2024, we'll select and contract the system integrator. And then August 20, and we'll also do the implementation. And then in August 2025, we'll go live with the solution. We'll work closely with you, the executive team, to ensure that your you're following the implementation and that we're getting your approval at every stage where your approval is required. We'll provide status updates bi-weekly on where we are with the project and where we are with monitoring the risk as well. We'll continue to work closely with the business all through the implementation to ensure that we have a full understanding of what their needs are and that the solution we're building will actually meet their needs. In summary, we're asking for $2.2 million for the implementation of Salesforce. If we're given the $2.2 million for this implementation, based on our numbers and our research, we know that Tech IT will be saving $2.1 million annually on its operating expenses. And not only the savings, but it will also increase its revenue by $1 million annually over the next 10 years. This is an estimated value of $31 million over the next 10 years by investing $2.2 million today. Thank you for sitting through the presentation. I'd like to take any questions you have at this point.
Approved, no question.
Okay, so I just want to quickly say here, I'm not sure her comment is to us, it's to the people. Okay, yeah, I don't know. Which PowerPoint presentation are you referring to here? If Loveline, if you're referring to this PowerPoint presentation, no, you probably don't, you don't have it. I don't think you have it. That's why nobody shared it with you. Bayer said, not sure her comment is to us, it's to the people she's presenting to, possibly. Lovely, you said Wahala. So tell me, did I confuse you with the presentation? What is your concern?
Oh, no concern really. I just thought that I think Bio is correct. I thought you had said this presentation that you just made, you had sent us the slides earlier.
Oh, right. No, I was talking to my audience.
Yeah. So yeah, Bio is correct. So thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, Nika.
Good evening, Abiola.
Good evening.
I just want to ask a question. In a situation where you've presented this and they decided to adopt what you've said and implemented the CRM, sorry for the background noise, please.
It's okay.
And it happens that after the first 1 year, that money was not realized, or what you projected didn't come to pass. What will happen? Will the business come back to you to say, you told us this and it didn't work? Or that's what I'm just thinking.
Just go and get another job. I was joking. No, don't get another job. So it happens, right? It happens. You did your homework, you and the PM and the entire project team, and you didn't hit it. Now, typically, right, in real life, that 1 million annually, right, will start from like year 2. Because in year 1, you're probably stabilizing the 2, right? But let's say you then indicated you're going to be saving, or your revenue would increase by 1 million annually over the next 2 years, and you don't hit the 1 million. It is okay. What is not okay is you not knowing why you didn't hit the 1 million. Because if you're able to figure out, let's say the revenue increased by 500,000, which is half of what you said it would increase to. What management wants to know is, why did we not hit the full 1 million? Let us fix it so that in the following year we hit the 1 million. So it's one of two things. You got your business case wrong, and it really should have been 500,000. Or you got the business case right, but something happened, right? People did not want the change, so they fought it hook, line, and sinker, right? They fought it all the way. And when people fight change, the impact may be loss of money. Do you understand what I mean? So what we're going to seek to do post-implementation, that's why when a project ends, that's not just the end and everybody walks away, right? We then want to see what is actually happening post-implementation. We implemented the solution for a reason. Was the reason addressed? Did we get the benefits? If we didn't get the benefits, why? And what can we do to fix it so that the following year would get the benefits? Do you understand that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Thank you.
Good. Yeah. So nobody is going to come hold you and say, oh, you claim this. And that's why, remember, you're helping them prepare the business case. It will not be your signature on it. If they don't hit the 500, you know the person they will hold? The person who approved it, which is the project sponsor. Of course, if you're still with the company, the project sponsor will come back to you and say, so Neka, 2 years ago, you said 1 million. What is going on? And you'll be like, oh, yeah, we said 1 million. Let me go look into it. Right? And then you look into it. Really, in a nutshell, that's how it is. Mobola.
Hi, Abiola. Thanks for the awesome presentation.
Thank you.
My question is, so prior to this demo, to this presentation, you sent this out to them, right?
Yeah. Typically, you want to send, if you're going to be doing a presentation, you want to send it.
To them. Okay, now I'm assuming no, not like they don't have to give an answer immediately. So how long does it take for these sponsors to sit down and think this through? How long does it take to get an answer from them? And also, what if they buy the proposed solution? Do they have to sign off on these documents that was sent to them, or there's a different document entirely that they need to sign off on upon adopting the proposed solution?
Okay, so 2 questions. You said, how long will it take them to make a decision? It depends on them. Really, from a BA standpoint, you do your job, give it to them. You're not even the one presenting it. I don't know if I mentioned it. Usually, you, the BA, are not the one doing the presentation. It'd be
So who
maybe
is
the
doing the
PM.
presentation?
Usually, it would be like the PM doing the presentation.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's not the BA.
That's better.
So again, this is one of the extras that I've spent so much time talking about it, because chances are you're going to be contributing a lot to this document. You see all the meetings that need to happen with the different departments for you to get the information that these numbers are based on. It will be you, the BA, getting it. The PM is not going to go be meeting with the marketing manager and all of that. Even if they do, it will be an exception rather than a rule. It will be you, the BA, doing the work. However, chances are you're not the one presenting it. You are not even going to know when they've made a decision until the PM comes to tell you about it. Okay, so it might take however long. It depends on the company, when the executives have a chance to meet and all of that. There is no standard. Depends
All
on
right.
how
What
fast
about
they
the
want.
sign off when
Yes,
the
so the
solution is
sign off.
adopted?
Sorry?
I worry about the sign off when the proposed solution is adopted.
Yeah, what is your question about the sign off?
Is it the same document that will be signed off by the project sponsor, or there's a different documentation for that?
So usually the business case document is not officially signed off like that. It's a document providing information to support them in making a decision. Different companies will have different documents. So there's a document called PID, Project Initiation Document. Not every company that I've worked has that document, but the company that I said created their own solution because there was none. They had a PID, right? And it was the PID that was signed off. Your company would have their own version of what they want to sign off to kick the project off. So you'll be aware of it once you join the company, what it is they follow. There is no, for some companies, it's the project charter. They say, okay, this project charter is officially approved, and that approval might even be in an email, the VP saying, I approve, and that's it. They've approved it. Now we're going to start the project. But the business case, like I said, is really, like everything I've told you about today, is really, here is the information. This is the decision I think you should make, but it's still your decision to make, right? And then they go off and make the decision and agree to spend the money, and then somebody will officially sign some document that would kick off the project. You are not going to be a part of the signing. You will not even know when they sign it. Your PM most likely will tell you when it's been signed, and they will store a copy of it on SharePoint. You can, maybe I keep saying SharePoint because a lot of companies use SharePoint, but maybe your company is going to use a different platform, right? And they will keep a copy of that document on whatever document storage tool they use. Does that answer your question?
Yes, please. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Joe?
Thank you, Abiola. This is just a follow-up to your statement earlier. I'm wondering, When do you as a BA get to make a presentation? In what scenario will you have to make a presentation?
Okay, so that's a very good question, right? I typically would not call it okay, we can call it a presentation, but remember how I said oftentimes you're the one talking to the business, right? Trying to get information from them.
Yes.
Sometimes it's in presentation form, other times it's not. If your question is, when do you as a BA have to stand in front of people and talk to them, right? Because it doesn't, presentation is only one of the many things that happen in a project. Other times you're doing requirement gathering workshops. I've done a requirement gathering workshop where there were, and I'm not saying this to scare anybody on the call, where there were like 25 people in the room, most of them senior directors, this and that, right? So it's not even the end user. That is the life of a BA. Sometimes it's a meeting with just 3 people. Sometimes it's even one-on-one, but most of the talking that a BA does, it's in question format, not in providing information format. When you go into those meetings and you ask all those questions, and the meeting can be any size, like I said, it may be 25 people, it may be a large requirement gathering workshop if it's a very big company, or a smaller one. Then you ask all of these questions, and we're going to get into detail of that later. Like I said, we have an entire section dedicated to requirement gathering. And you ask all of these questions, you come back with the information and you give it to the PM, you give it to the technical team, you give it to the project sponsor. Remember, you are the interface between the technical and business. So every time we want to get information from the business to be able to prepare a document like business case, or to be able to prepare another type of document, you are usually the one going to face the business to get that information. So that's why I said I wouldn't necessarily say presentation, right? In terms of formal presentation, I'm going to create a PowerPoint and I'm going to do a presentation. It hardly actually, a BA hardly ever does that. I'll never say never, but a BA hardly does that.
Thank you. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, a BA hardly does that. Except, an example might be training, right? They may say, okay, yeah, because remember how in the JD, last line, they'll just add training there. They always want to add everything into the JD. And they may have said, oh, you're going to be, do training, right? Well, in that case, it may be presentation style where you're actually presenting. But usually the day-to-day of a BA, you're not really doing presentations like that. Okay? But like I said, never say never. When you get on the job and they say do a presentation, please do not say, but Abiola said we shouldn't have to do. You may have to do, but I'm saying majority of your time, you're really not going to be doing presentations. The PM, though, does a lot of presentations. So sometimes, a lot of times companies have like a bi-weekly project steering committee, or where the PM is providing project status updates, right? It's usually in presentation form. So PMs do that like every week, every other week, but they may rely on you, the BA, to help them, right? But they would do the actual presentation. Anyway, I think I answered your question, so we're good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions on anything we've taught so far? So we've done 2 lessons, right? First, we started with BA overall, business analysis overall. Then we looked at some terminologies that has to do with requirement documentation, and then we talked about business case. Does anybody have any questions on any of those, or even on my presentation today? Okay. Who's Abiola? Is that somebody? Okay. I'm not sure what that comment is about. So any questions or comments? If there's none, we'll keep going here, or even any thoughts generally. Have you tried to picture yourself as a BA, just trying to insert yourself into what I said a BA would do? How do you feel about that? You all need to get talking. As a BA, you're going to do a
anxious,
lot.
actually.
Yeah. What are you anxious about? Let's talk about it.
Being able to talk to all the powers that be in the company, and probably trying to convince them to do what I think will help the business.
Okay. Okay, I can understand the anxiety there, but I also wanted to mention, Nika, like I mentioned earlier, right? This presentation I did today, chances are you're not the one doing it, right? Now, of course, there's still anxiety because you still need to talk to the business, right? So here's what I would recommend. I know sometimes people are like generally quiet and they don't like to talk, yet they want to work as a BA. Start now. What do I mean by start now? Like, even though you're not working as a BA, start working towards getting comfortable talking to people. Do like mock presentations and let people give you feedback. If you cannot fake the presentation in front of your friend, I don't know how you want to do it in front of people. And like they say, it's okay to be scared. Do it scared, right? Do it scared. You can. You can do it. You know, that's what I say to people. You totally can. You're going to start out anxious, but everybody did start out anxious. Even people who like to talk. When you're talking to a group of strangers, you don't know them, right? You're thinking, oh, will they like the way I talk? Will they like my documentation style? Imposter syndrome, right? You start questioning yourself. But that happens to everybody, yet we all go out and we do it. Okay, so I totally understand what you're saying, Nika. I think that it comes with the terrain, that anxiety. The only thing that takes it away is practice. Keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Mobola, go ahead, please.
I asked previously if a product sponsor could be same as a product owner. And as regards what Ineka said, I have been in an organization where I'm very shy and I couldn't I couldn't face large gathering when asking questions. But luckily for me, most of the stakeholders, most of the meetings I had to have with them were one-on-one. So at first it was very difficult, but as time went by, those people became friends, and they could easily reach out to you and you get relaxed with them.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
like what you said. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you short. As time went by, right? You
yes.
got comfortable.
Yes.
So time,
And
right? You keep doing it and then time passes and you get more comfortable doing it.
yeah.
What's it doing?
Okay. Awesome. You had another question about product owner, product sponsor. We'll leave that till we get to that part of the training. Okay. Bayo, go ahead, please.
Okay. Good morning, Abiola. I just wanted to, just get some, insights from you as to your best methods for questioning. What kind of questioning techniques do you adopt just to elicit, responses, when you go for those, requirement gathering sessions. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good one. But like I said, we have an entire lesson dedicated to that. We're going to go into that in detail with real examples. So if you don't mind, Bayo, we'll save it till then.
It's fine, no problem.
Okay. All right. Before I go back to the presentation, let's see what we have here. Thank you, Damilola. Black Force, they do. So, Joe, I'm not sure I understand. Are you saying BAs don't do presentations? So let me
sorry.
clarify
I'm just joking because I know we have a class presentation at the end of the program.
Yes, you do. Yeah. And the reason, so what I was saying there was that presentations will not be, so when I said presentation, I meant like a PowerPoint presentation, right? That's what I meant. You're not going to do that day to day, but talking to people, that's why they're hiring you. You will talk. I talk so much that at the end of work, I don't even want to talk to my family members. I'm like, I've talked the talk for today. That is how much a BA talks. So just so you know, and just so I make it clear, you will do a lot of talking to people. If you get a remote job, well, maybe you don't have to face them one-on-one, right? But you will do a lot of talking, just to clarify that. Kende said, I can do this. I love that. You can. You totally can. You can do it. It sounds very out there right now, but you can. You just need to get comfortable doing it. Anita said presentations and talking with senior leadership gets easier with time and with practice. Yes, time and practice. You know, time and practice. That's it. And Kende says, I agree. Okay, fantastic. We have about, I think, 20, 25 minutes more. So we're going to continue on here. So for lesson 3, we're going to do some more key concepts, right? Not detailed, but, you know, to give you an idea. Because again, in the future, we're going to be talking about requirement gathering, right? And once we start talking about requirement gathering, we'll talk about user stories and all of that. So there is a need for me to first explain the terminology to you so that when we get into more detail on that topic, you at least know what we're talking about. Okay. So what we're starting with is an epic. An epic is a big piece of the solution. Okay? So something like implement sign up or implement login functionality. That is an epic. An epic is so big that an epic is not something you can build in like maybe a day or like a week. We have this huge solution, this big implementation we want to do. We want to break it down into 10 different parts, right? And then each part will further break it down into smaller units. Okay? And so that is the concept of an epic.
You should be careful.
I think we should all mute, or I'll help you out here if you don't mind. Okay, awesome. Okay, so like register for a course is an epic. If you wanted to register for a course, there are multiple things you need to do. You need to search for the course, you need to select the course, you need to register for the course, and you need to confirm your registration. I just mentioned 4 different things. There may even be more, right? So the epic is this big piece, course registration, and then we have sub functionality or sub-task under the epic. Another example is booking a flight. If you wanted to book a flight, you need to search your flight, you need to enter your details, you need to enter your card details, you need to confirm payment for the flight. Okay? And then we have what we call a user story. A user story is a small unit of work, right? A user story captures what your end user needs to be able to do in the system. Okay, so we say it's a small unit of work aimed at accomplishing a specific goal. So think about when we talked about book a flight as an epic. A user story under that epic would be that the user needs to be able to search for a flight. However, from the name user story, I like to say that it is the story of a user. What does the user want to be able to do? You're trying to write a requirement from the point of view of the person who needs the requirement. Okay? So as somebody, whoever that I am, I want to be able to perform this action so that I can accomplish this goal. Okay? Well, I'm going to go into more details about what a user story is and how to write a user story, okay? But here are a few general, best practices for writing a user story. When you write your user stories, let there be a logical sequence to them. Like search for flight should come before pay for flights. So when I'm reading your user story, don't make number 1 pay for flight and number 2 is search for your flight. There is no logical sequence to that, right? Always write it from the perspective of the owner of the story. Okay, who needs to be able to perform that action? And then group your stories together. Let's say you're writing user stories for let me think, for book a flight, and you want to write user stories for book a hotel. Don't mix them together. Okay? Under the epic for book a flight, have the user stories for book a flight in there. And then under the ones for book a hotel room, have the user stories for that in there. And always include acceptance criteria. What does this mean? At what point would we say that this user story is behaving as it should? Now that we've built this functionality in the system, what do we need to be able to do in the system to say that we built it right? I'll show you a few examples of what I mean by acceptance criteria, but let's look at these user stories first. As a new user, I want to register by creating a username and password so that the system can remember me. 2, as a registered user, I want to log in with my username and password so that I can access the system. Let's pause for a minute here. Imagine that I don't have user story 1 and I start from user story 2. I will be assuming that this user has already been created in the system, right? But that is incorrect. So remember when I talked about a logical sequence, every time you write a user story, think about it. Is there anything that needs to happen for this user story to be possible? The current user story I'm writing right now, is there anything that needs to have been configured in the system, built in the system for user story 2 to be possible? A user who's not registered cannot log into the system. If you are not registered with Bank of America, you cannot log into any account. So even though you have an account with Bank of America, you went into the branch and you opened an account and they told you, oh, this is how to get online banking. If you do not register first, you cannot log into your Bank of America online. If you need money, you'd have to go into the bank. Okay? As a registered user, I want to be able to occasionally change my password so that I can keep it secure. As a registered user, I want to be able to request a new password so that I don't permanently lose access to my data if I forget my current password. Of all 4 user stories we have in here, you can see that they're all written from the standpoint of the user. Okay? If you were writing this just as a functional requirement and your company wasn't following user story format, because not every company wants you to want user stories, right? Some of them just want it written as functional requirements. So a user story would say, as a user, I want to register by creating a username and password so that the system can remember me. A functional requirement would say the ability to create a username and password so that the user can access the system, something like that. Or it may just stop as the ability to create a username and password. It's not writing it from a user standpoint. And somebody may be thinking, oh, which one is best? What is best is irrelevant. What is relevant is what format does your company want? Because both formats work. Both of them work. It's just a matter of what does your company want? What is their standard? And if they don't have a standard, then you can propose to them, right? Whether regular functional requirements or to write it in user story format. Okay, so now let's look at a user story that has associated acceptance criteria. As a registered user, I want to log in with my username and password so that I can access the system. So hold on a second before we continue here. In case you're wondering, okay, these user stories are written, but how did we get to the point where they were written? Like, who wrote them? Who talked to the user to get the information and then put it in user story format? That would be you. You remember all those meetings where you went to the marketing manager and you met with them and you're like, so tell me what you do today. Oh, tell me what you want to be able to do in the future. The marketing manager is not going to tell you in user story format. They're just going to say, oh, in the future, now that we're going to go online, we need our users to be able to log in. They're not even going to tell you we need our users to be able to create a username and password. They'll just say, oh, we need our users to be able to access the system. And then you would remember the analysis in your job title, right? Your job title is business analysis, right? Oh, we just need our users to be able to access the system. You then begin to analyze it and say, what does it mean? If I've never accessed a system before, and now somebody wants me to be able to access it, what needs to happen? And then be like, oh, actually, the first thing that needs to happen is that I need to register with the organization. And then in registering with the organization, I know that I'm going to need a username and password, right? I've done that before. And then you begin to do your analysis. Okay, so I just felt the need to mention that. Let's look at the acceptance criteria for this user story. Given that I am a registered user and I am logged out, if I go to the login page and enter my username, but an incorrect password, and click on login, then login fails with an error message that specifies that the user and or password is wrong. This is loaded. There's many things happening here. So maybe like, why didn't we just put all of this in the user story? Because that is not the point of a user story. The marketing manager is not going to give you all of this detail down here, given that I'm a registered user and all of that. They don't care. They don't think about things that way. All they'll tell you is, oh, we need our new customers to be able to access the system, or we need our customers to be able to access the system. But why is this acceptance criteria? Why is it important? Because we don't want somebody to enter a wrong password and still be able to access the system. Yet we're not going to put that detail in the user story, because your user story then becomes a user novel or something. Your user story should really be this short. All of that extra information that validates the user story should go in your acceptance criteria. So 1, given that I'm a registered user, what does that tell me? Acceptance criteria 1, if I'm not a registered user, user story 1 should fail. 2, if I'm not logged out, there's no way I can log in. I cannot be logged in and log in again, right? That's 2. 3, if I go to the login page and enter my username but an incorrect password and click login, login should fail. Okay? All of this is to validate number 1. Meaning that in number 1, what we're essentially saying is that the username and password need to be correct. But if you read this user story, it doesn't say that, right? It just says, as a registered user, I want to log in with my username and password so that I can access the system. Simply put. So when your QA or your testers begin to test the system, they are going to test against everything we put in the acceptance criteria. And then when they test against everything we have in the acceptance criteria, and it's all good, we then say user story 1 passed. But let's say that when they begin to test, they test given that I'm a registered user, it passed. And logged out, it passed. If I go to the login page and enter my username, but an incorrect password and click login, then I should get an error message. But when QA is testing it, they enter an incorrect password and they're still able to log into the system, well, then it failed. They're going to kick it back to whoever is configuring or developing the system to fix it. So you can see how important your acceptance criteria is. Very important. Remember to put anything that you want to use to validate the user story into the acceptance criteria. Okay, acceptance criteria B. Given that I'm a registered user and logged out, if I enter a wrong password more than 3 times consecutively within 3 hours, the system should lock me out for 6 hours. I'm guessing we get the logic of what we're saying here. It's probably happened to you, especially if you're trying to log into your bank account and you put in the wrong password for X number of times, right? It may log you out. Look at how much information we have in the acceptance criteria for this one user story. It tells you how important this user story, this acceptance criteria is, and the fact that you just don't look at your user story at face value like that. Yet, you still need to keep your user story very simple, straight to the point. Okay. So we just looked at user story. User story is one of the ways in which we document the requirement of the user. Okay. The other option is called a use case, right? A use case, in simple terms, describes the interaction between a human and the system. So let's use a practical example we're all comfortable with. Withdraw cash. If you wanted to write withdraw cash as a user story, right? As a customer of the bank, I want to be able to withdraw cash from the ATM so that I can, whatever you want to use your cash for. And then we begin to write all the acceptance criteria. Username must be valid, PIN, sorry, not username. What do they ask for at the ATM again? Your PIN number must be valid, all the different things, right? If you were writing it in use case format, okay, we're going to describe that interaction. 1, user inserts card into the ATM machine. 2, ATM machine requests PIN number. 3, user enters PIN number. 4, ATM machine validates PIN number is correct. If PIN number is incorrect, display error, reject card. If PIN number is correct, request that user select the account to transact on. 5, user selects account to transact on. 6, ATM requests this. 7, user does this. So that interaction, right? You see some use cases is like an entire page or 2 pages because it will describe that full interaction and all the exceptions that may happen if we enter wrong PIN number, if this happens, if that happens, ATM runs out of cash, that, right? That is a use case. A lot of companies today do not use use case. Does it mean that no company does? No, that is not what I'm saying. I'm only saying it is not common, but it's something you should know about. The key thing to remember is that it details the interaction between the user and the system. So withdraw cash, deposit cash, check balance, right? The step-by-step action that happens to achieve that requirement. Okay? Or let me say to perform the task is what a use case describes. So let's look at an example of a food delivery application. The primary actor is the customer who's ordering a meal. What is the scenario? Now we're describing it. User browses restaurant options. Once the preferred user selects preferred restaurant, I missed that here. Once the preferred restaurant is selected, user places an order through the application. User pays online or verifies they'll pay in person. Order is sent from application to the restaurant's internal system. Restaurant worker receives and processes the electronic order. Food delivery person picks up order. Food delivery person drives to the home of the customer. Customer receives order. If customer previously selected to pay in person, customer makes payments. Food delivery person prints receipt and gives it to the customer. Customer takes receipt. End of process. So you see how it's detailing that interaction. That is what a use case is about. Okay. Now, a lot of companies who follow Agile methodology would write user stories or functional requirements, not use case. I'll be honest with you, in the last 5 to 10 years of my career, I actually don't think that any of the companies that I've worked with actually use use cases. Having said that, I'd never say that may not, that would be your experience as well. So it's good that you are aware now of what the use case would look like. Okay. So we have about 6 minutes left. Are there any questions? I'm trying to gauge if I should do one more slide or not, or if we'll continue from Agile tomorrow. Are there any questions about user story or use case? So let me see. So Olusegun said a personal stating what they want and why they want it. Yeah, I'm not sure at what point you put that message, but I'm sure it was probably relevant to something that I was talking about. Okay, if there are no questions here. Okay, Olusegun has his hand up as well. So let's go with mobile and then we'll come to Olusegun. Mobola, did you have a question? Okay, Olusegun, go ahead, please. Mobola and Olusegun, you have your hands raised. Did you have a question? Oh, I muted them. Oh, okay. I don't think I
You
wasn't.
muted us.
Oh, that wasn't me. I apologize. It was Ineka. There was some background noise. I muted her. But okay, go ahead, please.
All right. Please, if you don't mind to go back to that user story where you had the acceptance criteria, like
Okay.
I'm a little bit confused. I
Okay.
noticed
Sure.
the acceptance criteria is given when then, right? But here, my interpretation would have been that given that I'm a registered user, when I go to the login page and enter my username and password, then I should be able to have access to the system. But what we have here is like what a QA tester would do, right? To prove that there is no error on that acceptance criteria. I'm kind of confused because
Okay.
I've
Okay.
written quite PBIs, and that is why I wrote them. And now looking at this, it's like, oh, I've been doing the wrong thing. But
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's the wrong thing because if the QA was to test how I had spoken about it now, then that's what they would have done. So I'm a little bit
Yeah.
confused. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you mentioned two things, right? You said number one, acceptance criteria should be given when. That is incorrect. Acceptance criteria can be given when, it can be given, it can be. This question came up in the last class as well, and I had to go online and take a link to show to people that the format itself, there are different formats of writing acceptance criteria. Given when is one of them. Secondly, you said that the way this is written is more for the QA tester to be able to test. So I have a question for you. Let's forget QA for a second. If a user were to try to access the system and they put in a correct username and a wrong password, should the user get an error message or not? Forget QA. Let's just think about the user.
No,
Should the user
but
get an
from
error
your
message?
explanation, you said it's the way the system should respond, right? So as a registered user, as long as I put in the right username and password, the system should accept and grant
Yes.
me access to whatever I
Yeah.
want to see.
Yes, agreed. So what did I say that's different? Remind me, please. Mobile, are you there? I did not mute anybody again. Did Mobala drop off the call? Or did anybody else understand what her question was? I think I'm not understanding her. Or maybe we'll just wait for her to come back. Olusegun, go ahead, please. Okay. Can you unmute yourself?
Hi, Bella. Okay, I just got unmuted now.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the class. Thank you for the explanation. Okay, so that first comment that I made, that personal stating what they want and why they want it, it was reference to user story.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so my question is I'll go back to the BA questioning their client.
Okay.
I'm just wondering that will this style of questioning help, like using the 5 Ws and H style of questioning? Would it help when you're talking to your client? Will it cover all the things you need to know in terms of why, where, when, how?
Right.
Would it,
So,
would it
yeah.
be able to
So again,
extract? Okay.
yeah, sorry, the questioning part, right? I say it's very important to a lot of people, and we're going to spend time on it. I don't want to go into it here because I'm sure there are people wondering what is the 5 Ys, right? And we don't want to confuse people. So if you just be a little patient, we will get there. But the one thing I want to mention is that there is no hard and fast rule to what will cover all the questions you need to ask. And even the why, when, who, where, and all of that, it's a way for you to start the conversation. That's not all of what you need to do, because you need to be able to start a conversation somehow. So you're going to ask how, why, where. But again, like I said, let's leave it for now. When we get
Okay,
to the
thank
lesson
you.
on
Thank
requirement
you. It was
gathering,
because
we're
you were
going to
talking
cover
about
it.
questioning. That was why I was just trying
That
to
was why
ask
you
if
brought
that
it
was
up. Yeah, and I appreciate
yes.
that. But like I said,
Thank
just
you.
remember this, right? That the 5 whys is a way for you to initiate conversation. What your goal
Okay.
is really to keep the conversation going, keep them talking, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the goal here. And what I want to be able to do is to give you examples, right? Whether the example I'm going to give you will match what you find on your job, you would have to wait to find out. But I'll share some, some tactics with you on how to go about it. But again, we'll dedicate an entire lesson to that. So thank you for bringing it up.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Idong, I hope I
Abiola,
pronounced your name properly.
yes, you did.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the class. It's been very informative. I was just wondering, would you use a use case to create process flows, or are process flows just from the business standpoint?
Yeah, so you could definitely use the use case, right? If you have, so in the last 2 classes we had, I think it was yesterday, I talked about whenever you want to create a process flow, you start from a narrative. What's a narrative? It's a step-by-step activity in the process, right? Like, oh, the marketing manager does this, then the marketing intern does that. You have it line by line. And then you can just take that document and start mapping it out. I will show that to you in class, right? So you definitely can take a use case, because a use case is really detailing the step-by-step of the user's interaction with the system, right? You definitely can use it for a process map. However, even if you don't have a use case, you can still create a process map, and I'll walk you through that. But to answer your question, absolutely, you can use a use case diagram to create a process map.
Okay, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, no problem. Olusegun, your hand is still raised. I'm not sure if that's because you have a new question or you just didn't lower your hand. Okay. Unmute us. That's Mohammed. Blame Mohammed. It's not me. I did not mute you. Okay.
Can I ask my question?
Okay. Mobile. Okay, yes, please.
Yes.
I think that'd
So
be
I
the.
was saying that based on this first user story, that my acceptance criteria would have been like, given that I'm a registered user, when I
Yeah.
input my username and password, then the system should grant the user access, right? And
Oh, I see what you're saying.
what I have here would have been my test scenarios for the positive and negative. So
I see what
that's
you're saying.
that's my line
So
of thinking.
yeah. So if you write it that way, remember that your QA, if you really want your QA, and by that I mean your testers to like you as a BA, make their work easy for them. Your QA or your testers will rely on your acceptance criteria to build their test cases. Do not assume that they will think of all the different scenarios. If there is a valid scenario that should go in your acceptance criteria, put it in there. The goal is not to make your acceptance criteria look like a test case document. No, that is not the goal. But apart from QA, that's why I said don't worry about QA. If you just write the happy path, given that I put in my correct username and password, I should be able to log into the system. Well, there's nothing in here that you said that would help us configure an error message to be displayed to the end user if they enter the wrong password. Are you relying on QA to write that part for you? Because if QA ends up writing their test case and they can test that that a wrong username will bar the user from accessing the system. But they may not necessarily test that an error message is displayed, because there's nothing you've written in your user story and your acceptance criteria that has asked for an error message. So a user not being able to log in because they put in the wrong username or wrong password is completely different from generating an error message. You can basically stop at wrong user, wrong password, and not enable them login. Stop the login, right? Because they put in a wrong password. But however, do you want the next step, which is to display an error message? So if you don't include anything in here, because the error message is additional functionality that needs to be configured or built. Unless you don't want an error message to be displayed, then in that case, don't include it. Do you understand what I mean? Because what this is saying is that if it is incorrect, obviously don't allow them login and then show an error message. It is two different codes that will handle it. I don't want to get into the details of code right now, but what I'm just trying to explain to you is that two different things need to happen in the system. One is block the login. In fact, another one is if the login has been, if the incorrect password is consistent, right? Block the user, not just the login. In fact, block the user and then send an error message. The error message for blocking the login is even different from the error message of blocking the user. Because if you block a user, then you want to tell them that due to you entering your password incorrectly 3 times, we blocked you, now you have to wait. So I say all of this to say, don't leave anything to assumption and say, oh, QA should think about it. Even if QA will think about it and test it, the question I ask you, Mobola, is, do you want your users to see an error message if they enter a wrong password? If the answer is yes, put it in your acceptance criteria.
All right, thank you.
That's my recommendation. And if you don't put it, and then the user ends up entering a wrong password, and the login is blocked, but there's no error message, the user is going to be unhappy because now they've been blocked and they don't even know why they're blocked. But that is because you left it to QA to say, but QA should know now that if I enter a wrong password, an error message should display. You've basically left it to them figuring it out. I wouldn't recommend it.
All right, thank you.
Do you understand?
Yeah, thanks. Thank
you. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. Like, this is
Okay.
very, very robust, right? And it's broken down into several scenarios. So yeah, I do agree with you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Joe, you had your hand raised. Oh, you still have your raise. Go ahead, please. Last question for the day, and we'll take all of the rest tomorrow.
Hi, Abiola. It's just a follow-up to this. So is there an acceptable number of acceptance criteria per user story? Or as you just write as long as as wild as your imagination can take?
So actually, no, your acceptance criteria should not be too many as well. I think you really should have about 3 for one. There is no hard and fast rule to it, but about 3. If your acceptance criteria is becoming too big, what you've done is you've lumped another user story into it. But we have to save that for later.
Oh, okay. Oh, still deal with it.
But about 3, give or take, is enough. If it's growing too long, you need to look again at the user story. Maybe you need to break the user story into 2 so that you can divvy up the acceptance criteria. Okay? Layo, would it be okay if I take your question tomorrow? Layo, are you there?
Yeah, it's fine. I actually wanted to ask a follow-up question based on what Mobola said. So, but it's fine.
Right.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I know that you have another class or something. I'm just being respectful of everybody's time, but I'll start with you tomorrow if that is okay.
Oh, okay. Perfect. That's fine.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful evening or day or afternoon, depending on where you are. We'll continue on tomorrow. Bye, everyone.